Good afternoon, everybody. It's really good to see you all here. And very interestingly, that's actually good to know that people are coming to Riga Business School and they're ready to serve not only themselves, but the society as well, because we just don't have to think about ourselves. That's one thing which I really want to say in the beginning, so that you know you're not here for yourself only. So I'm Zakia Siddiqui. I'm a faculty member here, teaching finance and accounting related courses. Along with that, I'm also the academic advisor for the first year students, for the freshmen. So you'll see me if you get into Riga Business School, hopefully, that's hopefully. If you get into the Riga Business School, you will see me quite often in the beginning. Okay, so what is Riga Business School? So what do you know about Riga Business School? Have you ever done a research or something?
Was it Riga Business School collaborated with this American school?
Do you know the name of the university? It's okay, I'm going to tell you that, but I'm just trying to find out, what do you know? Why did you come to Riga Business School today?
Mostly, like, I'm from Senegal, and the business school just with my friend. We studied.
I won't ask you the name right now, but maybe after this session, I'm gonna. Okay, that's not what I want to say here, but it's okay. Thank you very much. Okay, how about you guys? Why did you come today? Why Riga Business School?
I got interested in purpose planning and the greenhouse program.
Which program?
Greenhouse.
Greenhouse. Ah, so you were in the greenhouse. Okay, good to know. How about you?
Don't know much about Riga Business School. That's why.
So who told you about Riga Business School? Oh, yeah. So do you know Artis Liepa? He is actually our president now for the student union. Yeah. So yeah, great. You did a good job, Artis. What about you?
Just on the internet and
Mr. Last person. Yes. You tell me. What's the question? The question. This is called how present you are. So why Riga Business School today?
To see how it works.
How it works. Okay. Do you want to say something? Always interesting. Do you really want to study, or you're just here to explore? How is it? Study. Okay, we'll see. All right, thank you very much, everybody. It's just to make sure that you're not so nervous. Okay, so if you have any question, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll be able to answer it. All right, so as actually one of you actually already mentioned, so our founding members are Riga Technical University. We come under the umbrella of Riga Technical University and University of Buffalo and the University of Canadian University of Ottawa. Yeah, so they are our founding members. Along with that, we have academic partners. Now, what does it mean? Academic partners is that you would be able to go there for a couple of semesters and study there. In the last semester, usually you go there and you can do one semester there, just to have the international perspective, the global perspective, so that you know how it works, how these studies are there all around the world. So it's not only in Europe, but you can also see we have in South Korea, and US, France, and Japan as well. So if you're interested, it will give you more exposure. That's very important, to have more exposure once you are in your careers, in the beginning of your careers. So that's one thing. And then we have the leadership for technology-based world. What does it mean is we're just not focusing on the courses over here or the contents which you would need to do the job, but how to interact with the other people, how to use the technology these days. Because how many of you know ChatGPT? That's one of the famous things these days. Yeah, of course. How many of you actually use it for your assignments? 2 hands. No? 2? Oh yeah, we have only 2. So we can have only 2 hands. Yeah. So, and not only using the technology just to cheat or just to do the assignment, but how to use them efficiently. Not only the available technology, but how to come up with the new ideas. You can have the startups, you can have the new businesses where you would be able to use the technology as well. So how to use that. That's how we are going to prepare you guys over here. And over here, you're not going to see only Latvian students, but we have international students as well. Along with that, our teachers, I would say 50–60% of our teachers are international, like they are foreigners here. So you will have different perspective again, different backgrounds, different knowledges. So you would be able to know people have worked in the corporate for more than 20–25 years. And I was just looking, I didn't know, but I was also looking at the average age of a faculty member here in Riga Business School. So it actually tells you that how much experience our faculty members have here. That's one thing. Then we are, as I mentioned, that we are providing the global knowledge locally at Riga Business School. Just under one umbrella, you would be able to have an access to the information from different parts of the world in terms of doing the projects, going for Erasmus program, going to our corporate partners, and also involving with the faculty members as well, along with the students. So engaging faculty, how many of you like teacher, the only person is, speaking in the classroom? How many of you like it? The teacher, come on. Yeah, how many? Sorry? So for some time, we are going to assume that they're not here, but thank you very much for that. And then we have the engaging faculty. We try to make sure that teachers are involved in your learning process, but most of the students are working together in the groups. We just provide like a mentorship. Along with the knowledge, we provide the mentorship and make sure that you have all the support which is necessary. Then we have interdisciplinary approach. Does anybody has any idea what is interdisciplinary approach? So interdisciplinary approach is not only knowing, for example, not only knowing the business, not just knowing the accounting or finance, but you have to know about psychology, you have to know about statistics, you have to know about theoretical courses which may be involved, which is about knowing other, how to interact with other people. This is very necessary. You're not in a vacuum. You have to interact with a lot of people. You have to interact with the general public, how to interact with them. You have to interact with the legal authorities, how to do, handle them or tackle them, doing the documentation, how to do the analysis. So interdisciplinary approach is actually giving you the knowledge of all the areas which would be necessary as a leader or as an employee or as a person, heading a business. That is what we are going to provide you here. So it is an interdisciplinary approach at Riga Business School. And we are focusing on the digital innovation because you are Generation Z. Yeah, so we don't want you to get bored in your paper books. Okay, not only the books, not only the paper books, all the ebooks, but we are just trying to make sure that it is something we are using flipped classroom, different types of tactics to make sure it's more interactive, more interesting for you and you're learning something. So just not the books. We'll actually ask you to do projects, get involved with the municipalities, help them and come up with the solutions. We'll provide you all that type of support. That's one thing. Then a bit of what type of the bachelor's program we are offering. There are two major degrees in terms of the bachelor's. We have BBAs. That is Bachelor's in Business Administration. And then we have BITL, which I'm going to show you on the next slide. So BITL program is a program which can provide you with a degree from Riga Business School or from Riga Technical University. Now, why would you would be thinking, why from Riga Technical University? I'm at Riga Business School. So the point is, if you have the average grade more than 7, you get Riga Business School degree. If you have the score less than 7, it means you would be able to have the Riga Technical University degree. Yeah, so you have to work a bit more. So then we have a double degree program. Double degree program is, though you will be doing one bachelor's, but you will get 2 degrees from 2 different countries. That is from Norwegian Business School, BI Norwegian School, or from the State University of New York at Buffalo. Now, what does it mean is that you would be able to do your last year of your bachelor's program either at Norway or at the University of Buffalo, that is US. So you would be able to have 2 degrees. So you would be like, oh, I did 2 bachelors, but actually you did 1. you would know the background. But on your LinkedIn profile, it looks awesome. Just think about it. Yeah. So that's one thing. Then we have a specialization in marketing, finance, entrepreneurship, and data analytics. Not only that, you can also do bachelor's as a general. What if you would like to see what is in the marketing, what is in finance, or what is in entrepreneurship or data analytics? You can do, a couple of courses from each of them, and you can have the general bachelor's as well, BBAs as well. Duration for the BBA program is 3 years. Now, when I say 3 years, it means a full load. Yeah, so it means 6 courses per semester. Yeah, so just in case you're getting less, so you have to calculate accordingly that how long will it take. So the condition is you have to pass as well. Yeah, pass all the courses. That's one another condition. So how does this BBA program looks like? So as I mentioned earlier, we are not just providing you the knowledge for the specific courses like finance strategy, marketing, HR, IB, law, entrepreneurship, but we are actually preparing you for the corporates as well. We are polishing your skills. You already have those skills, but we are trying to polish those skills. If in case you're lacking it, we are helping you to learn. Now, what type of the skills you need to communicate, not only to your boss, to your employees, to your customers, to the legal authority, but as a society as a whole. You're representing an organization, how to communicate with them. Yeah. So not only in the meetings, but sometimes it is also important how you present yourself, not only on LinkedIn, but also on social media. These are small things, that can actually impact your career in the long run. And we have we also provide you the data analytics tools, which are necessary if you are in the business industry. For example, statistics, business research method, R programming, and SQL. That is, as I was actually talking to one of my colleagues, and we were talking about, we have so much data available, so much. We are talking about it. So how to analyze it, how to use it for our business, how to make it profitable. So these tools will actually help you to analyze those data. Does that make sense? Okay, then these are some examples of our graduates. You can see over here, they're not only working at the banks, at the fintechs, but there are some students who are working at Nasdaq Riga. And then we have Circle K and Unilever. That's again, a multinational company. So not only, they're in the Latvian-based companies, but also the global or the multinational companies. The second program is Bachelor's of IT Leadership. That's, in short, we call it BITL. So it's more for the people who are interested in the computer science, but not just computer science, just the computer or IT stuff, but it's actually the combination of the business and the computer science. Yeah, so it's IT knowledge. So how does it help? It's actually a unique program. First of all, you should remember that this is a program. So far, if I'm not mistaken, Melissa, please correct me, it's offered by Riga Business School only for time being, the BITL program. So this is the one thing which actually give us the edge over the others. That is, we are offering 2 things together, combined. And again, we have, as the BBA, you have a double degree program. You can go to Norway, or you can go to US and have the dual degrees. They have the specialization of general management, artificial intelligence, and data analytics. However, for the BITL, the program is 4 years long. So that's something which is different than BBA. So BBA is for 3 years, BITL is for 4 years. That's the main difference. So the main difference between BBS and BITL, just in case you want to compare 2 programs. So you can say that BBA is more focused on the qualitative skills. However, when it comes to IT leadership, so it's more quantitative, focusing on the quantitative skills. That's one thing. And then how they know how to do the coding. But what does that mean? Well, that's what the BBAs do. They read it, they analyze it, and then they report it. This is something which is used by, you can say, your stakeholders. Not only your shareholders, but the stakeholders. And of course, they also do the analysis, but the decisions by the end of the day, how to make the decision based on the analysis is done by the people in the administration, business administration. This is what you're going to learn in BBA. It's more human-centric. However, BITL program is more big data-centric. That's just a comparison of two programs which we are offering at Riga Business School on the bachelor's level. So if you have any questions, comments, you're free to ask. If not, thank you very much, everybody. I'll hand over to Melissa. Melissa will continue.
Okay, now it's my turn. I'm excited. Okay, so double degree. As my lovely colleague Zaki already said, you can get a double degree. What it means is when you finish your studies here, whether it's business administration or IT leadership, you come out with 2 degrees. But what is the best part, I think, is that when you're here, you're preparing for an international experience, and then you can either go to Norway or you can go to the US, and you are there already prepared for being away. You already have a knowledge base. And the best part is, so does anyone know how much studies at the US cost? Just like, yes. Does anyone have like a rough idea of how much studies cost at the US? Like in total, it would, like for 1 year, yeah, 30, 40,000, and then together it would be like $200,000 a year. Yes. So if you come here and study with us and you decide to do a double degree, you would go there for 1 year, pay the cost of a 1 year to University at Buffalo. That would be approximately 50,000, and that includes your living expenses as well. You come out with 2 degrees. So instead of paying 200,000 approximately, you would pay 50,000. I think that's a huge advantage. The same goes out to studying in Norway. That approximately is 20,000, but that's including your living expenses as well. So I think that's great. I wish I knew that. I didn't. But that's not the only international experience that you can get. We also have cooperation universities, as Zaki has already said. You could go to South Korea, you could go to Japan, or you could go to France. And that's in your 3rd year of studies. You go abroad for 1 semester. Or you could choose to do Erasmus+, which we also do. We have top 300 universities that we cooperate with for Erasmus, but I think these are the most well-known ones, at least for me. I know them. Who of you have considered doing a semester abroad or a year abroad? Who want to go study abroad? Okay. Okay. Are you going to use these opportunities that we offer? Yes? Yes. Where do you want to go abroad and study? Yes, yes. We had students in Barcelona. I saw more hands than I got answers. You're still deciding. You're still deciding. Okay. And not only do we have international experiences, you can also get great internships. So an important thing that we also need to mention is that when you decide to take a degree with us, you need to get a 3-month internship experience, and that could be spread across your 3 years of or 4 years of studies. And these are the places where some of our students have gone to get their internships, which I think are great. You can also see like public services at Concurrence Spadome. You also see these huge banks and other businesses. So yes, see, contacts, we can help you arrange great internships. Yes. So admissions timeline. Our deadline for admissions applications that you need to send in is the 15th of May, which is rather soon. Something you need to do beforehand is take an English proficiency test, which is either TOEFL or IELTS. And we actually offer a free TOEFL exam if you want to study with us. So if you're thinking of studying with us, we offer taking the TOEFL test for free. And you also would need to do the RBS Math entrance exam, but we offer preparation sessions for that as well. And when you apply to our university, you're automatically enrolled for the math entrance exam, but the preparation sessions are before that. So we have one on the 26th of April, and we have one on the 13th of May. Yes.
Are the interviews like online or like?
No, they take place here on site. If you are away, we could try to arrange something else. But yes, they will all take place here at our premises.
Can we choose a date? Because if we get dealt a date that we have exams in, for example.
Okay. For the people who may be watching us online, next time when somebody has a question, I'm going to throw a microphone to you so the people who are watching us online, they might have the same questions. What was your question? 1 second. There. Catch it. Yes, catch it. There.
For example, if I have an exam on the dealt date of my interview, can I like arrange another date?
Yes, we have a few weeks of individual interviews, and when you apply and you send in all the documents, you'll get an email back that gives you a link where you can choose an interview time that suits best. We have multiple dates, so don't worry. And if
Okay.
none of those dates suit you, please send us an email. We'll try to arrange something for you. But there are plenty of dates, so I think they should suit you.
Thank you.
Does somebody else have a question? No? Okay, well, let me know. I'll throw you a microphone. Okay, so yes. If any of you would like to take the TOEFL test or you want to participate in the math and entrance exam preparation sessions, please come to me after the event. I'll give you the dates and we can arrange everything for you. Yes, and then on August 22nd, you start your studies. First, you have the bonding camp, which I think these students can tell you more about. That woohoo was not really enthusiastic. And then on the 28th of August, it's your first day of studies, and then you start all the learning. Yeah. But it's fun, right? It's fun. Okay. So the admission criteria. First things first is English. That's why we need TOEFL or IELTS. So for example, if you're applying to universities outside of Latvia, then you're probably taking the IELTS test. And if you are, we will accept that as well. If you're not, you can do the TOEFL for free. And that's 25% of what we take into account when you're applying to study with us. The second part is your secondary education, which will take into account your 10th grade, 11th grade grades, and the first semester of your 12th grade grades. Yes, and then the third part is the math entrance exam, which we also take into account. So it's very important, of course, when you're coming here, you need to know English and you need to know math. But that's why we have these preparation sessions. So there's nothing to be scared about. We're here to help you. And the final part is the individual interview. But not only that, when you're applying, you also need to send in a motivation letter. And when you send in your motivation letter, you need to show what kind of extracurricular activities you're doing. So we take into account if you're motivated, if you're driven, if you have leadership skills. And that comes into account when you're applying. You're also in the competition to get the RBS Excellence Scholarship, which will cover the full extent of your tuition fees. So it's really important that you put in your best effort as well in not only the individual interview, but also through the recommendation letters that you also need to get and the motivational letter. So that's all very important and it can benefit you in the long run. Does anyone have any questions about the admission criteria? 1 second. I have to throw the microphone. There.
Why isn't the motivation letter between those 100%?
It is, it's in this part, in the individual interview. That's where we look at your motivation, your extracurricular activities, and everything that you do outside of the school. That includes individual interview, recommendation letters, motivation, motivational letter, all of that.
Okay.
Yes, I'll put this down. Thank you. Does anybody else have a question? No? It's fine.
If I was to fail,
If I fail the math entrance exam, let's say, can I retake it?
Yes, you can. That's a good question. Thank you. Okay, so these are our tuition fees. Because the Bachelor of Business Administration is 3 years. There's that price, and then for Bachelor of IT Leadership, there's 4 years, and so there's another year that you have to pay for. But these prices are for EU residents only, so take that into account. But how to finance your studies? So it does not seem that daunting that nobody can get this education. It's not that way. You can take out a loan, so you can take out a state loan. And you can also get a loan to cover your living expenses, so that can add on to that. You can obtain a scholarship, which is what I mentioned before, is the Riga Business School Excellence Scholarship, which you're all in the competition for and applying for when you apply for studies here. So there's nothing special that you need to tick or anything. You just apply for studies with us, and then we'll look at who gets the scholarship. And then you can get discounts. So the children of Riga Business School alumni get 10% discount for their tuition fees. So if your parents studied here, you can get a discount. And then our student union, when you're studying here, you can also get discounts through various ways. We have one guy in the back, Sandris, who is our student ambassador, and he's also Hi, Sandris, and he is competing for a discount. So if you're active in your student life, there's multiple ways in which you can get discounts for your studies. So it's not set in stone that there's just one thing that you have to pay. You can get discounts throughout. And then the student union, if you're active in the student life, they offer 50% off for 1 semester, right? Yes. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about this? No? Okay. Well, that's it. If you have any questions, you can send me an email or you can call me. There's no other place. And then you can also ask Ines from our admission if you have any questions. If you don't have any more questions, we'll move on to the mini lecture part, because we already have one of our lecturers here. And now so if there's no questions, no, that's fine. That's okay. Well, you can come down, and then I'll put on your.
Is it set up for here
Yes,
already?
yes, I'll set it up.
Testing. Yeah, this works also, right? All right, visualization. Where's my? So how did it go so far? Okay.
Students are.
Okay, excellent. Take my drink. Yeah.
And if the students have any questions, they have them.
Okay, so I can throw it to them, right? Let's just check. Yep. Okay, we can go. Yeah. Okay, works. All right. So how about sound? This works? Can you hear me in the back? Okay, but in the audience you can hear me well, right? So today's talk will be like a mini lecture. Will be about problem solving, about algorithms, and about machine learning, which of course is a very hot topic these days. All right. So a little bit about me. I'm Valdis Saulasparens. I have 30 years plus experience programming professionally. Also, I'm a lecturer at the Riga Technical University here. Also, I do research at the National Library of Latvia. for also text-related tasks. And a question to you: this picture, what is it from? How is it made? Of course. Yes, of course. What else, right? The question is now. The second question is, who is the person there? Who is that supposed to be? That's one guess, but not quite correct. Yeah. Who is really? Last time I did this question, somebody actually in the audience, I was pleasantly surprised. It's a pretty famous person, actually. It's not quite. No, that's the funny thing is I'm a chess player, right? That's why I made this fusion, right? But it's actually he's not a chess player. He's a writer.
Oh, Stephen King.
Yes, Stephen King. Yes. Somebody a long time ago told me I look like a little bit like Stephen King, maybe slight resemblance, right? So I use that as a fusion, and it's using stable diffusion. I don't know if you have played around with this, right? You can run it even on your own computer these days. So pretty nice for generating some nice pictures with some prompts, right? So, but let's move on, right? So I teach data structures using C++ language here. I teach programming language course in general. We cover some modern languages such as Go, Rust, and Kotlin there. And I also teach the analysis and design of algorithms, mostly using Python, use some other languages as well, right? So I'm pretty much open-minded about languages we use in my courses, right? So some of you might already have some coding experience. How many have some coding experience? A little bit? Anyone? I saw somebody using some, right? Yeah. Python experience, anyone? A little bit, right? Yeah. So again, I'm talking about the computer science part, right? Of course, I'm sure somebody else will talk about the business part here as well. I cover the sort of say the computer science part, right? So, and again, maybe a short introduction is due. What is computer science, basically, right? We basically, well, one explanation is we explore these, computers, computational systems, to arrive some, to solve some problems, basically. And we need some tools. We need algorithms, of course. We need some data structures, and we need some basically, programming in general. We need to give some instructions to computers. We need to learn how to do this. Well, again, you might be asking, okay, I want to just make money, or I want to be in business, I want to do something else, right? Why should I care about programming, right? But there's a saying that software is eating the world, actually, given by a prominent venture capitalist, actually, and it is true. Even if you go to beekeeping, maybe your passion is beekeeping or something, I don't know, gardening in general, software is everywhere these days. And knowing a little bit about, basics of coding is very important, especially as we will see when we talk about machine learning, right? About these days, when you provide prompts, say ChatGPT, right? You do need to know a little bit to get the best results, right? So applications are everywhere, right? And we'll start by general. I don't know if you can see this, right? This is just a, general problem solving processes. I like how Richard Feynman, he was a very famous physicist. He said, think of a problem, think hard, and have a solution, right? Three-step process, right? His process was this, right? You can break it down into identify the problem, generate some solutions, and see if some of them work. Maybe you get solution and get the best one and review, right? But of course, in computer science, pretty much everything involves this, problem solving. That's pretty much daily life, right? That's also what makes life exciting. But then the question is, what is an algorithm, right? How does it compare to general problem solving, right? What did you say, right? I have an answer there, right? Basically, it's maybe a little bit more strictly defined, basically, right? You have a general problem solving skills. Algorithm is a step-by-step way of solving some problem. Why do we need algorithms when we're dealing with computers? Why? Yeah, well, thing is, computers are stupid. I like the saying, computers are stupid. They only do what they tell them to do, right? Even in these days of machine learning, we still underneath they're stupid. They process the instructions on, and if you make a mistake, basically, computer still, it can try to guess what you try to do these days, but still, at the end of the day, it still depends on your instructions, right? So algorithms, strictly defined algorithms, help the computer solve our problems for us. Again, what's an algorithm? How to cook an egg. I'm sure most of you can do that, right? Or how to get out of bed, right? But we have different ways of getting out of bed. One leg, left leg, right leg first. Maybe you roll out of the bed, right? Different ways, different efficiencies, right? So computer science studies these algorithms, different algorithms, and we try to come up, see which one is better, right? Which way of getting out of bed is better, right? Of course, how it relates to computers, of course, right? So also we study data structures, but basically that means what's the best way of storing information? Again, the world is basically drowning in information, right? I'm sure you also have, basically you're also probably drawing information these days, right? So some ways of effectively filtering the data, right? How to process, that's everywhere, right? Big business, small business, I'm sure you heard of term big data, right? So how to process this is everywhere. This is a challenge for, I don't know, next 100 years, next 200 years, we'll see. So some of the structures I cover in my courses, of course, are the basic ones, things like arrays, lists. I won't go into detail right now, things like stacks. What's a stack? It's just basically like stack of plates, right? On the last plate in, the last plate goes out. And what's a queue? You guys didn't grow up in the Soviet times. You know what a queue is, right? Maybe some British guys here. Anybody from Britain, right? Right? You know what a queue is, right? First in, first out, right? First guy, first at the line, right? Waiting for tickets, right? First guy or first girl gets the ticket, right? So yeah, queues are important. Actually, it is a data structure, right? And then we move on to trees and graphs, because many problems can be modeled as real life problems can be modeled using these tree and graph structures. And they actually do look like trees and look like graphs, right? So, and we cover, of course, algorithms like, for example, sorting. In one of my courses, of course, sorting is fundamental, right? How to order things in an efficient time is quite important, right? Maybe you want to sort by alphabet, maybe by numbers, right? And what's the best way to do it? Also, we cover searching. What's the best way of searching? Do we go through a list from the beginning, right, to the end? Maybe we have some ways, or some data, we have some better ways of searching, actually, right? I'm sure we use, Google search. How does Google find the answer so quickly, right? It's actually using something like a tree type of data structure to find the answers, right? And again, I mentioned we do compare the algorithms, right? Which one works better? There are ways of doing it. And you might be asking this, I heard about somebody asking about math, right? How much math do you need to do, computer science? Actually, 0 and 1, true and false. You need some logical thinking, really. Yes, if you have some math knowledge, if you have some math, if you are tended to math, right, that's going to help you, but not as much as you think, right? You can be a very good programmer, you can be a very good specialist in IT without knowing too much math, actually. Even in machine learning, yes, if you want to develop the cutting edge algorithms, yes, you will need to know some math quite a bit. But for actual use, right, the math is not maybe that crucial, right? So don't worry if you say, okay, yeah, there's a lot of math, right? Yeah, there's some math, but it's mostly very basic, right? So I mentioned graphs, right? Increasingly important field, right? Because, we can model these problems, for example, social networks, internet, of course, a collection of basically, computing devices linked together, transportation networks, of course, right? Many problems can be modeled as graphs, as networks. So that's also what I teach in one of my courses. Now we move on to the main part, right? The machine learning. So what's the difference between machine learning and regular programming, regular computer science? What do you think? Maybe you have some ideas, right? You heard of machine learning, right? Yeah. So what's the difference? Any hypothesis? And just programming, just regular programming.
Well, programming sort of tell the computer what to do.
Yes.
Figures.
Yes, exactly. Very good. Exactly. Yeah. So machine learning is really all about feeding the computer some data, and computer actually comes up with some rules, right? Regular programming, which I also teach, right? You learn to tell the computer something. In machine learning, we feed data, maybe sometimes with answers, sometimes without any answers, and computer, well, comes up with a model of the world, right? There's a famous saying, all models are wrong, but some models are useful. And it turns out these machine learning models, they are, well, They're not perfect, of course, but they're quite useful. Again, I mean, I'm sure you use ChatGPT. You've seen how, you know, it works very well actually most of the time. Right, fantastic tool. So it's finding now these days we are like probably the third or fourth AI. I would say spring. Right, there have been some AI winters. AI means artificial intelligence, and machine learning is a subfield of artificial intelligence. Right, it's part. So now we are like this big boom cycle. Maybe it'll last 5 years, maybe 10 years. Who knows? Right, but it's I think it's increasingly clear it's becoming more and more important. Now let's talk about some of the type of tasks we learn in machine learning. Who has seen Silicon Valley? It's a TV show. Anyone? It's maybe not very recent, but you can watch it on Netflix. Anyone? No one has seen it. It's a TV show, like six seasons, I think. 6 seasons. Run from like 2015 to 2019 or so, roughly. The creator is Mike Judge. Do you know who Mike Judge is? No. Okay. Say no more. Okay. So this reference, this culture reference just fell flat. But okay, yeah. But there's an episode in the show where it's about Silicon Valley, right? Silicon Valley, you know where Silicon Valley is, right? Where is it? Yes, in California, right? Yes. Probably the center of all the startups, of all the business activity, of innovation. Say what you want, say what you will. But yes, so the show is really, Bill Gates said, everybody who watches the show, they say it's too accurate, right? Some people don't want to watch it, so it's too accurate. It tells too much about Silicon Valley, right? So check it out. If you have Netflix or some other place, you can check it out. But there's an episode where one guy makes an application, an app on a phone, which identifies, is it hot dog or not, right? So a pretty funny episode, but basically the issue is that his application only works on hot dogs. It says hot dog or not, right? Not very useful if you want to say it's pizza or not, right? So the issue is that you need to provide some data to these machine learning algorithms. He made a machine learning app, right? But you need to label the data. You need to provide examples, right? And this is a type of supervised learning, meaning it's a type of task where you tell computer, okay, I have some answers here, right? And you try to make a model, right? And then I will feed you some data, which I don't have answers for. And you will tell me the answers, right? You'll tell me, is it a hot dog or not? Is it hot or not? Is it, what the answer is, basically, right? And these are actually quite it's a wide variety of applications, right? There are types of answers. Maybe they are numbers, then it's called regression. And if it's classification, meaning you say yes or no, hot or not, red, blue, black, and so on and so on. That's a classification task, right? So what other tasks are there? Well, there's also unsupervised learning. And this is where you have some data, but you don't know what it means at all, right? You don't know what it means. You just want to make some sense. For example, you have some shopping information from a supermarket, loyalty cards, for example, right? And you want to make, what are these customers made of, right? Well, then you can use something called clustering. Basically, you will cluster these, the raw data into some clusters of data, and then a human, being a human reviewer can make sense. Say, okay, these are like my best customers, by some measure. Maybe these are my early morning customers. Maybe there's some relation between these customers. So it's used for business intelligence, for learning about data. But again, you don't know the answers, right? So that's type of unsupervised learning. Now, there's also reinforcement learning, the third type of machine learning. What's the idea? What's the big idea there? Basically, you treat these machine learning, programs as agents, and you give them rewards, meaning, a cookie, right? You give them a cookie, right? And so you can use them for game playing, for robotics, things like that, right? And you sort of send them out in this virtual world, and they try to do something with this reward function, right? And they try to do something, right? And of course, there's famous saying, there's a so-called paperclip problem, right? If you make this AI, which is going to make paperclips, right? And you just let it loose on the world, it could potentially just eat the whole world, including us, right? Because it all wants to make paperclips, right? So that's one of the dangers of all of this happening, right? If you give it a wrong reward, right? The whole world will be paperclips, right? So we talk about this in the course as well. And then we get to deep learning. again, neural networks. And what's going on here? Basically, we have a human, a neural network tries to model the world as a sort of like human brain. But the funniest thing is, it's like 1950s model of the brain. The neural networks actually are quite simple approximations of how all human brains work. So, we have our biological network, we see a cat, we come up with a cat. So that's a classification task, right? I mean, a 2-year-old can do it, right? So neural networks are also getting good, right? And basically, these little dots are basically sort of really simple approximations of how our human neurons in our brain work, right? So some people say, okay, yeah, these neural networks are getting these great results. Maybe that's how really we work, right? But it's not, I wouldn't agree completely, right? And most people don't agree on this, right? There are some crucial differences, right? So that's deep learning, right? And then we get to this another field called NLP, right? NLP, natural language processing, which basically deals with our language, basically, right? So there are lots of subtasks such as machine translation, right? It's gotten quite good, right? Even for translating Latvian to English and vice versa these days. Sentiment analysis. Is this tweet, is this post positive or negative? Is this movie review good or bad, right? So that's the sentiment analysis, right? So again, it's a subfield of machine. Again, you can use machine learning for these tasks. And maybe let's look at one more, computer vision, right? So what's that, right? For example, you have a automated computer reader of license plates, right? When you are speeding, right? It would be kind of painful for a policeman to go down and write down all those license plates. Of course, you use computer vision for this. That might not be so positive if you like speed, right? So, but there are other, of course, applications, right? So computer vision is another field where we use machine learning. Now, that all leads to, right, one important point is, of course, ethical side, right? Because again, the world, this AI world, this machine learning world is developing so fast that we need to think about, right? Like in the Jurassic Park, right? Like scientists, we could, but should we do it, right? Are there things we should, right? So that's another important consideration when learning about this, right? That's why also lots of voices are talking about being responsible, of course, right? Just don't let loose, a paperclip maximizer on the world, right? Without thinking, right? Who knows what could happen, right? So, right. So human-centered AI, basically, right? I'm sure, I don't know how many you have YouTube channels, right? But YouTube is very aggressive about closing down videos. I don't know how many people post videos on YouTube. Anyone? No? Where do you post? Instagram? Snapchat? Yeah, of course, Instagram, right? Yeah. My daughter posts on Instagram. I don't know. Right. So, yeah. But thing is, right, it's pretty aggressive, right? If you post something which is not undesirable. And thing is, if something goes wrong, right, there are these horror stories. Again, they decide, okay, you are not, you're a bad actor, you're a bad person, and that's your account is closed. And the problem is, of course, there is no human to talk to. It's all machine language models, right? You have these bots, chatbots, right? And and how do you get a human, right? And that's the problem, of course, right? If there's a human out of the loop, right, of decision making, that leads to undesirable, consequence for us, right? I don't know about robots, right? So, right. So it is crucial that you guys develop critical thinking skills, right? Again, so how many people have used ChatGPT? How many? 1, 2? Oh yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, yes. So it's a fact of life, right? That you need to, if you're using ChatGPT, what's the problem with ChatGPT is it hallucinates, right? It can make up facts, right? So you need to apply some critical thinking, when using these tools, these modern tools of how to use them to think, is this actually makes sense, right? I better double check it, right? You can't trust Google, but you can trust also ChatGPT as well, right? So that's, again, this human factor is going to be increasingly more important, right? So you do need this base, right? This foundation of these concepts I teach in my courses, right? To navigate this fast changing world, I think, right? Again, 6 months ago, right? I wouldn't think, these machine language models, right? They didn't seem so strong, right? I was using them for maybe a couple of years earlier, right? But they are improving very quickly. The question is, are we here, or are we like a plateau, right? Are we stopped, or maybe we'll go up more, right? So you guys are lucky, right? It's going to be pretty exciting next few years, or maybe next few decades. So Right. So again, you need to combine the AI on the human. For example, good example is medicine, right? For example, X-rays, right? You have a machine learning model identifying, X-rays which are suspicious, and then a human doctor, right? Somebody with experience can judge these, right? That's just one example where a machine learning, human and AI collaboration, right? So yeah, and of course, again, so these human skills remain important. I would want to say that this, empathy, right, emotional intelligence is just as important as these dry, technical skills that I teach, right? So that's very, very important. Now, yes, so creativity, critical thinking, right, human-centered design, and ethics, right? Things we should think about. Finally, right, final, I'm almost done, is how do we learn, right? There are lots of research, how do people learn differently, right? There are different ways of learning, right? I try to accommodate, but I found, and most students tell me that doing it along with the professor, right, with the teacher, works really well. So for example, in a classroom, I do something, right? I offer opportunity using these collaboration tools for people to follow along, right? Otherwise, if you're listening to PowerPoints, right, it's, 25 minutes is about the max, right? And then you start falling asleep, right? So usually if you're doing something along, right, then you can last the whole lecture, I hope, right? You do these little tasks and things like that. So social coding, doing things together, yeah, do group projects, of course, are a good thing to do. So it's nothing scary, right? Hopefully, maybe, I don't know if you have any students from my classes here who could tell about my classes, maybe, unbiased view. I'm of course biased. So, for interactive coding, and that's basically a very short lecture about these topics, of course, which would take, a while to digest. Maybe any questions on some of the topics we covered? I could see, yeah.
So my question is, what is your thoughts on that AI will eat itself and the fourth world war will be sticks and stones?
Well, that's what I was saying, paperclip problem, or, I am more of an optimist. I'm more of an optimist. I think it will be all right. All right. And maybe, as an ancient Chinese curse is, we will live in interesting times, right? We'll have some fun during these times, I think. So it's not, as I have some, really, close experience with these models, they're not there by far, right? They give you some impressive results, right? But they are not gonna eat the world, right? Not anywhere soon, right? So who knows, maybe in a year or two, maybe things change radically, right? And we'll have to get scared. But I think it's too early about that. I think it's more positive. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. I recently read an article where it was stated that programmers and coders,
Yes.
Their professions are endangered because of AI.
Yes.
And I know that you mentioned the fact that the ethical part is very important in
Yeah.
recognizing mistakes, but do you believe that in the near future AI will be able to do that as well?
There is a Bloomberg study which said, I think 300. Thank you for your question. 300 million jobs will be lost due to this, AI revolution, basically, worldwide. That includes coders, programmers, also includes lawyers, includes PR specialists, many different. Yes, artists, of course. There's some cases, right? So if you are an artist who is basically, but the general tendency is it's the middle on the lower end, right? If somebody, there's a site called Fiverr where you pay $5 to make some art, those people are going to suffer. If you want to make some extra money making some, extra art, you're not very good, right? AI will take over, right? So you will need to practice for free, basically, right? However, the high-end artists, and also your question was about programmers. As a programmer, AI tools are amazing. You basically become so-called 10 times programmer, 10x programmer. You feel like a Superman or Superwoman, right? Basically, it gives you like you feel like you can fly, basically, right? When you use these tools properly set up, right? It's pretty amazing. Like last 2 years, I was testing this product for Microsoft. It's called Copilot, right? I don't know if you have used, some of you. Basically, it's like ChatGPT, but for programming, it's amazing, basically, right? You can do things like you got to do something, in Something would take me maybe half a day, takes me maybe like 20 minutes now, right? And also what's really, really cool is it gives you this feeling like you have a new language, some new technology, right? You don't know too much. You could spend half a day on a Google trying to read some documentation, maybe reading some magazines, some books, but instead you can use these tools and start doing it, and it goes much faster, and you learn by doing it. So it's actually, I think it's right now, it's a huge productivity boom, basically, right? So I think it's actually gonna, it's like, what's the saying? I'm giving you some example from the history. Of course, Luddites about who are worried about losing jobs in the early 19th century to machines, right? For weaving machines, making clothes, right? It's famous example, right? Of course, what happened? Of course, there are more jobs, right? Of course. Question is, some jobs are not very fun, the factory jobs, right? But there are a lot of fun jobs actually in AI field these days, actually. So I would say, yes, there will be a very radical transformation. I would say many jobs will be lost, but also many, I would say more jobs will be created, actually, right? So it's kind of, it gives you, like I said, it's now if you're 1 or 2 person shop, you can do much more than like having a team of 10, basically, or 10 people, right? So that's also becoming very important. So, anyone else?
Okay, thank you, Valdi.
Right.
This was very insightful. Thank you. Next, we will have another lecturer now. We will have Justin, who unfortunately had to join on Zoom
Oh,
because Justin had to go on urgent business back to the US. But this is something that tends to happen sometimes. We have lectures online on Zoom. So yes, Justin, you can turn on your camera and turn on your microphone when you're ready.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
I have a horrible screen, and it's only it's 6:30 in the morning here, so I've been up since 4. Okay,
Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
oh, well, yes.
I'm fine. I'll be better when I get a better hotel, but I had to get one urgently, so it's not that great. So you have a wonderful background to look at. So I'll share my screen with you soon, so you don't have to look at me. So good morning, everybody. I am Justin Bancroft. I'm a certified public accountant. I have been one for 30 years. And I teach accounting at RBS and some other subjects. So I was a partner in an accounting firm for many years. I first came to Riga in '96 as an auditor, audited lots of exciting banks you may have heard of, like Ice Krauplis Bank, Trasta Bank, International Bank, Zemes Bank, Banka, all the good ones. Yeah, so I have a little bit of credibility in the issue, and what I'm going to do is do a little taster today of what a class might be like, what an accounting class might be like, and I'm very happy to walk you through some materials if you want to see what an actual online or an actual mixed media type class would be. So with that, let me share my screen. So you can stop looking at my face. Yep, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to bore you with a little bit of material first. Why do we come to university? Somebody tell me, why do we come to university? Oh, we have bad.
It's okay. It's okay. We lost you for a second. Could you take 1 point back, maybe, please?
Why do we come to university?
Please raise your hand. I'll throw the microphone at you.
Why do we come to university? I gave you 4 options. You can give me some more.
To learn something.
Okay, to
Get
learn
answer.
about. Okay, it's a good answer. So do we learn to come how to do something, to learn about something? Well, anybody have enough?
To learn how to think, probably would be my guess.
Okay. Yeah, that's the answer. So to learn how to do something, well, we can go to the technicums for that. they'll teach us how to do hair and makeup or fix cars or plant potatoes or fix tractors. And it's a very useful skill. And with the advent of machine learning, maybe some of us will be using those skills more frequently, but we'll get paid a lot better for it. Because, you know, believe it or not, ChatGPT can't fix your toilet when it's broken at 3 in the morning on New Year's Eve, right? So there's some value in skills. Okay, to learn how to do something, not really. To think about things, well, we're doing that all the time. We don't really need university to that. To learn how to think, the processes of thinking. And it doesn't really matter whether you're studying chemistry or art or history or business, right? The primary vehicle for learning is thinking. And then what we think about is sort of a method that we use. So today we're going to think a little bit about accounting as a way to think. Okay, so I'll introduce you with some boring slides and then we'll do a little activity. There's 3 main types of accounting. Okay, there's financial accounting, there's managerial accounting, and there's tax accounting. And all 3 forms of accounting are necessary to do business. Okay, accounting is the language of business. Whether you want to be a marketing manager or a human resource manager or a production manager or an engineer working in a company or a chemist working in the ministry, the environment ministry, you're going to need to know some accounting because you're going to have budgets for your department and you're going to have things you need to buy. And accounting is the language we use to communicate things like price, cost, okay, assets, liabilities. We'll get into that. Okay, so financial accounting, managerial accounting, tax accounting. I'll talk about the first one last or in the middle. Tax accounting, what is tax accounting? Well, tax accounting is these guys. Tax accounting is what, knowing how to do proper tax accounting is what keeps us out of jail. Okay, so tax accounting is the method that we use to communicate with these people right here on the screen that you see. It's filling out our gata products every year and our nodoklos deklaracija, our tax returns. It's a completely different way of accounting than normal corporate or managerial accounting. And we don't particularly teach this here at RBS. You would go to work for a Zvernats Revidence for a few years, and that person will teach you all the specifics. And VID gives courses. The law changes every year, but it's quite complicated, tax accounting, and very important. It's the way that the state is supported by collecting revenue. So then why do we need accounting? Well, managers and investors of companies have basic questions. Okay, how well did a company perform? And where does that organization stand? Where does that company stand? So there's 2 financial statements that answer these questions. Okay, and we'll get into a couple of those. There's not enough time today to get into every financial statement and all accounting and debits and credits. So I have to just give you a very quick focus. But how well did an organization perform? We need to know that because we want to know whether they made a profit or they lost money. Profit and loss is how we measure performance of a business. And where does an organization stand? Well, that means how big are their assets, liabilities, and I'll describe what that is, and what's their equity. We need to know those things before we invest our money, or before we loan a company money, or before we make a credit decision, or before we even work with a company. We may not want to work for a company if they're going bankrupt. We may not want to form a business relationship with a company if they always pay us 90 days late. And the financial statements are what will tell us that information. Okay, to do this, accountants generally look at three things. Okay, balance sheet, the income statement, and the statement of cash flows. So the income statement is the thing we talked about a little bit earlier. That tells us how a company's performing. Did they make a profit or did they lose money? Balance sheet tells us how strong they are or weak. And the statement of cash flows tells us just that. Are they generating cash? Cash is king. And this is what I call the holy trinity of accounting. Assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. Okay? Assets are resources that you use to support your organization. Assets are good. You own a building, you own machines, you have cars. Those are assets. Liabilities are the things that you own, that you owe. So you may borrow money to buy assets. For example, if we looked at Air Baltic's balance sheet, we'd see that they have hundreds of millions or billions of dollars of planes and leases on their balance sheet. Well, they also have hundreds of millions of liabilities because they borrowed money to buy those planes. And then they use the planes to produce profit or loss. So liabilities are not necessarily bad, and assets are not always good. So that's what we have to learn in accounting. If you have assets, but you're not using them, then they're not really useful for you. And when you borrow money to buy an asset that's productive, and you're flying those planes full and generating lots of revenue, that's a good thing. And the difference between the two is called owner's equity. So assets minus liabilities equals owner's equity, right? We can move this formula around. The main thing is it always has to be in balance. If assets go up and liabilities stay the same, your equity is increased. That's a good thing. That means you own a larger piece of it as a shareholder. If your liabilities go up and your assets go down, you got a problem. Okay? So this is something that we'll learn to use. It's something that will serve you always when evaluating companies. You look at their owner's equity. If it's negative, the company has a serious problem. If it's the same size as the assets, that means they have no liabilities. Really good. We'll learn how to do that. So real quick, what's a balance sheet look like? Well, here we can see there's the assets. They got some cash. They got some inventory. We have some liabilities. Accounts payable, that's people that borrowed money from you to buy things. They pay you 30 days later. And you have equity. And we'll break this in. Now, in a real life, there's multiple forms of paid in capital. There are multiple forms of shares. Okay? Paid in capital, that could be common shares, preferred shares, blended shares, different types. Gets quite complicated, but easy enough. Balance sheet shows us the position. Company's assets, liabilities, and owner's equity are equal. If it wasn't equal, then this statement wouldn't be correct. And we'd have to look for the problem. Okay, then we have revenues and expenses. Okay, revenues and expenses are what result in the income statement, or the basic things we deal with the income statement. So revenues essentially increase our owner's equity because revenue minus expense equals profit, and profit ends up on the balance sheet. And by chapter 3 in first year accounting, you'll understand this relationship. And by chapter 6, you'll probably know more than 70% of the accountants, bookkeepers in the country. I guarantee it. So we'll work hard, but we'll get it done. So here's the maybe you heard of Intel. Here's the income statement 2020, 77,867 million. Yeah, that's 77,000 million. They had a nice bit of revenue, and they had 56,968 million in expenses. So they made pretty good money. Okay, so this is what tells us how the company performed. So I don't think I need to ask you, but did this company perform well? Somebody answer me. Did this company perform well, looking at the income statement?
Who do I throw the microphone to?
The people here are saying yes.
Yeah, I mean, now, in real life, that's relative, because if we were doing manager accounting, which I'll talk about next, managerial accounting, the company who had a budget, and if they budgeted 40 million in profit, then they didn't do well, and the managers won't get a bonus. If they budgeted 10 million in profit for the year, then they beat the budget by 100%. They did pretty well. I mean, that looks like a pretty good profit margin. Okay, but one of the things we also need to look at to determine whether they're doing well is look at their competitors and compare the percentage of profit to revenue. All right, 20 divided by, let's call that 80 million in revenue. So what's 20, 40, 60, 80? That's 20% profit margin. Pretty good. But if the competitors are earning a 40% profit margin, then this is not good. So everything's relative. And that's what we learn in accounting, is how to make those assessments of performance. First thing, managerial accounting will make decisions, but we have to base those decisions on financial accounting. And we always have to pay our taxes, or else we'll be in jail and nothing will matter. Okay, managerial accounting. What is this? Somebody tell me, what is this?
They're talking about the ice cream.
Yeah, okay, it looks like an ice cream, right? It looks like that's a Pole's ice cream bar. Yeah, I just had one last week at Remy. Okay, so in the eyes of us, or most people, it looks like an ice cream bar. But in my mind, and in the mind of an accountant, it looks like something else. What's it look like?
Anyone?
Take a guess.
Take a guess.
Impaired asset.
Okay.
Impaired asset because it has a bite taken out of it, so you can literally sell it.
Yeah, it's no longer an asset, right? It's a liability because I got to dispose of it. Yeah. Okay. But when it was still in the package, yeah, it's an inventory. It's an asset. It's something I can sell and make profit off of, right? Sell it, make some revenue, and then I have to deduct the expenses. And now that's where things get complicated. So here's the question. I'm going to show you one more slide. All right, users of accounting information, management accounting, process of identifying, measuring, accumulating, analyzing. Okay, boring. Okay, management accounting, boring. But basically, management accounting is what we do to make decisions. So we take financial information, financial accounting information, other information, and we make decisions. And the decision could be, do we want to make ice cream bars or not? That could be the decision. Maybe we're currently making Turo Rudy and we want to make ice cream. Or maybe we only make one kind of ice cream and we want to make another kind of ice cream. Or we want to have plombiers and zemanas, not just chocolates, right? Those are accounting decisions, not just marketing decisions. So let's end the lecture with a little exercise, an audience participation exercise. How much does this Pole's ice cream bar cost? Look to the person next to you and think about, how much did this ice cream bar cost?
Depends on the country where you buy.
Okay, how much does this Pole's ice cream bar cost in Riga?
Oh.
Take a guess. Take a guess.
€1.50?
€1.50. And where did you get that number from?
I
You cheated.
TikTok.
Academic and second TikTok.
Okay. Welkom certificate.
Where'd you get the number from?
TikTok. From his.
TikTok.
What's your feed?
TikTok. TikTok. Yeah, okay. TikTok. Let's look at, you look on Amazon and figured out how much does a Pole's ice cream bar cost on Amazon? Maybe we should ask ChatGPT, right? Will it tell us how much a Pole's ice cream bar costs? Okay. So let's share a different screen. What screen do you see right now?
The ice cream screen.
You still see the ice cream screen because I shifted to an Amazon screen, but I didn't share the right screen. Okay, so let me get out of this screen. Okay, how much does an ice cream bar cost? Somebody said 150. Okay, well, 150 is the price of the ice cream bar, not the cost, right? If I go into a store and buy an ice cream bar, that's the price of the ice cream bar. But how much did that ice cream bar cost?
20 cents max.
40, okay, but where do you get that number from? What are all the components of this ice cream bar?
Milk, chocolate, and like the stick.
Okay, well, let's do, so let's,
Cheap.
yeah, that's right. Milk, chocolate, you got the stick, you got to pay the printer to print the Pole's name on the stick. You got the package that it goes into. Yeah. Oh, are those the only costs of the ice cream?
The transportation costs of keeping it cold.
Oh, yeah, the refrigeration cost of keeping it cold. Okay. How about a couple other things?
Yeah, maybe advertisements and what else? Something else probably.
Employees.
Yeah, employees.
Do you see Excel right now?
Yeah.
You see Excel? Okay. Well, this is what we would do in class. Let's take a look. How much does it cost? How much did that ice cream bar cost? Yeah, not the price. Well, let's think about it. Do we need machines to make that ice cream bar?
Yeah.
Okay. So we
Yeah.
got assets. So we had to buy assets to buy that. So let's just call it a ice cream machine. Yeah. So we need to buy an ice cream machine. How much does an ice cream machine cost? 10K.
10,000. Yeah.
All right, it's probably more like $1 million because you got to pay. Think about it. You buy the machine. Is that it? You just buy the machine, go plug it in the wall, and you make ice cream? Well, what does the machine cost? The machine costs 10,000, right? Let's say you buy a machine for 10,000. That would not be sufficient to make Pole's ice cream bars. But then what else gets added to the cost of the machine? Oh, we got to installation. We got to pay some guys 1,000 to set it up, don't we? Oh, and we've got transportation. Somebody mentioned that. We had to ship it from Italy, right? Because I'm assuming the Italians make the best ice cream machines. Yeah. What about, oh, when we transported, did we need to buy insurance? Okay, there's another 50 euros. Okay, so the ice cream machine cost us 11,550. Well, I can also just use the sum function, except my little thing is in the way. So I can just, let's check my math. Oh, I got it right. Okay, that would be a big fail. Okay, and what other costs are there for this?
Depreciation.
Okay, that now you are getting into chapter 3, or you're getting into the later chapters, but that's right. When we buy this machine is going to last 5 years, right? Let's say it lasts 5 years. So we've got revenues and expenses, but we're dealing with costs. So what are the costs of this ice cream bar? Well, we got this machine. It lasts 5 years. I'll just call it DEP. So we take this cost divided by 5 years. We got 2,300 of depreciation every year. $2,300 of depreciation every year. What else do we got? What else is the cost of the ice cream bar? How much milk goes into an ice cream bar?
Someone else wants to have a go? You can share the microphone. No?
In a single bar or like a whole box of them?
Okay. Well, you know, your question is your question is a good one too, because let's say we make a pole, we only make one Pole's ice cream bar. We don't make millions.
Then
How
50.
much is that? Then how much would that ice cream bar cost?
Do you have the answer? Do you want to take a guess?
All right, let's take a step back and wrap this up so we don't go over time. Okay? Let's think about all of the items and what we have to spend to just make a simple ice cream bar. Do we need a building?
Yeah.
Unless we outsource it. Let's say we have some, you know, we're going cheap, so we just rent a flat in Boulderai and we make our ice cream in Boulderai. Okay? So we want to be close to the Pludmale, so that's a good spot. Yeah. Okay. How about, oh, we need a truck to deliver it, right? Okay. So we got to buy a truck. Okay, our building's in Boulderai, so the truck's going to be more expensive than the flat. Yep. Okay. What else do we need? This is just the assets. What assets? We bought a machine. We got a building to put it in. We got a truck. Do we need anything else? Any other assets?
Brand Eagles would help you.
Say what?
Employee.
Okay, but we live in the modern world, and so we can't own people anymore. So employees are not necessarily assets, right? We can't put them on the balance sheet. But yeah, that's an expense, right? We're gonna have salary expenses, right? But let's say let's say this is our assets, right? So there we got 1150 plus 5 plus 7. So it's 23,000 right there. It cost us. That's a cost, not a price. Price was 150, but that's a cost. What are some other costs? We got depreciation, because the way we allocate the cost of buildings, machines, and trucks is by depreciating them, put them in the right period. But that's financial accounting. What else we got? We got milk. We got chocolate. We got salaries because we need employees. How about what else do we need to run our business? Will the machine run on its own, or do we have to plug it in the wall? Yeah, so we got electricity.
Electricity.
Yep.
Wood for the stick. Wood.
Say what?
A wood for the stick.
Wood for the stick. There we go. We got sticks. Okay, those might be assets. Okay, not necessarily expenses, but let's. And actually, we don't need milk. We need cream, right? Or maybe we need milk plus cream. Are we going to use Lithuanian milk, or are we going to use Latvian milk? Actually, Okay, so can we just make the, what else do we need? Cream, all these cost money, right? We got employees, salary expense.
Transportation, probably.
Yeah, we got transportation. We have to pay for transportation to bring the milk and the other, and the chocolate and everything to us. And we got to pay transportation to send it to the stores. But do we have to put the, ice cream in a wrapper?
Yeah, we should put them packages.
Packaging. And packaging, now packaging. Okay, think about that. Is packaging so easy? We might need to pay, we buy packaging, we got to pay for printing, or maybe we just pay for somebody that does it all for us. But in theory, you could buy the boxes yourself. The box. And then send the boxes to a printer. Then you have to have the foil wrapper, and you got to send those to a printer. So you've got all sorts of costs. It gets quite complicated. Think of 3 more expenses or costs that we need to produce this ice cream bar.
Yeah, our pretty woman said that we need a graphic designer who.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a designer, right? We're going to have to pay a designer to come up with our logo. Yeah. Now, when you build your logo, actually, that's an asset. That's called intellectual property. That goes on your balance sheet. Trademarks, copyrights, logos. That's an actually asset you own. But that's a cost. You're going to have to incur that. You're going to have to come up with a cool little polar bear design or whatever design you want for your ice cream. Let's come up with 2 more.
Maybe health insurance for employees.
Okay, yeah, see, there you go. You just broke it out. So now we got health insurance. So there we got salary expense. What's a component of salary expense? Well, we got their hourly wage. We also have their social taxes that we have, portion that we have to pay, right? Because when you get a salary from a company, you pay a portion of social tax. The employer also has to pay a portion of social tax. So salary expense is actually more than just the hourly rate. And I think there's a component of income tax that the state has to pay, the company has to pay a little bit of too. So there's 3 different things you have to account for when you hire a person. And social is actually broken into 2 things, right? There's the health and there's the pension. So you got to account for those separately. So what do we got? We got milk, we got the chocolate, and we got, let's call it flavorings, right? Because we might have more than flavoring. Say what?
What else?
Well, we're gonna need udons. We're gonna have to have water, right? You can't make ice cream bars without water. So there's another cost. Oh, what else? You own a building. Is that it? You just buy a building? No, when you own a building, you got to pay property tax to your pagas or to the state. Okay. Oh, and then you've got car tax, right? You have to register the car every year. And what else? Can you produce food? Can you just produce food? You decide you want to make ice cream? Can you just start making ice cream?
No.
You need
I have to get approved by government, all the, I don't know. It's
yeah,
license.
you're gonna need to get a license, or I'll call it a license, but it's that's right. You're gonna have all sorts of applications. You need to get health inspection, right? You need to get a VAT number. You're gonna need to, and definitely when you start your business, right? When you start your business, you're gonna need to have to hire probably a lawyer to help write your initial statutes or your initial protocols. and you're gonna need to pay an accountant. Right, because you're gonna need to go to the bank and set up and you're gonna need to pay the Uznamums register, because you're gonna have to get a license to set up your SIA or your AS, depending on that. So let's finish this up. How much did this ice cream bar cost? Do we know?
But that,
Not yet.
But if we only sold one, how much did it cost?
a lot, because we didn't, return on the investment.
Yeah, we've got at least 23,000 in assets that we had to buy, and then we've got all these expenses. Now, we wouldn't make one ice cream bar, right? We'd buy lots of milk. We'd buy 1,000 gallons of milk, and we buy 20 kilos of chocolate, 20 kilos of plum bitters, and all of these things. But you see, that is a question. You know, some classes I start them by how much does a cup of coffee cost? The exercise is the same. You know, a cup of coffee doesn't cost €2 at caffeine. You've got that $50,000 Italian espresso machine that you had to buy. That's a cost. So this is the sort of thing you'll learn in managerial accounting. Okay, managerial accounting. But before we can make decisions, and then before we can make decisions on whether we want to make this ice cream bar, we have to know how to do financial accounting so that we can figure out what all of our costs are. Then we can put them in the little boxes that we want to figure out where it goes. So I want to have a new share. Let's go back to those lovely slides. So the answer is, it depends, right? So if I went to a lawyer, they'd give me an answer. If I went to an accountant, they'd say it depends. Give me all of your data. So, any questions? Thank you.
We have an applause for you.
You
Thank
have a
you.
what? Yeah?
We have everybody was applauding. So thank you,
Okay.
Justin.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you very much. Hopefully you're done for the day. Go have an ice cream.
No, we have another mini lecture.
All right, another mini lecture. So enjoy your ice cream, and I'll see you next year. And we'll learn actually how to make an ice cream in accounting.
Thank you,
very
Justin.
much.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day. Bye.
Bye.
And now we have Janis. This is gonna be our last mini lecture. Yes, I'll give word to Janis.
Thank you. Oh boy, I can sense the excitement in the room. I was wondering, so it's awfully quiet from outside. Now I see that. I get it. I will try to be short. If I don't do anything, it's gonna be bad. Don't want to do that. I'm gonna do my job and do my job well. Thank you, Max. Okay, cool. And hopefully, should I get the slides?
It's on.
Oh, that was nice. Okay, thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Max. Okay, sorry, I'm a bit out of breath. I was on my bicycle. How is everyone doing today? Don't lie now. How are you doing today? That sounds more appropriate. Well, I suppose a feeling like this is very much like what university feels like. You are tired, but you have to continue because someone is watching, someone is taking notes, and you gotta do it. You gotta do it. However, it doesn't all have to be like that. There can be some interesting things. Perhaps it's going to be sometime late in the day next semester, or I suppose for this course in the spring semester, where you'll be just like this, but maybe something exciting will come your way. So I encourage you, can't force you, we don't do that here. I encourage you to keep an open mind, and maybe something cool will happen. You'll hear something cool. If not, that's okay. That's common. Okay, no promises about what you'll hear today. Okay, what am I doing? This is me. This is what I do. Well, part of what I do. So I teach a course called Introduction to Visualization. This is for third year BIDL students. So there are two bachelor programs, the BBA and the BIDL program. I deal with the BIDL students. This is one of the.
That's for Bachelor of IT Leadership.
Thank you, Melissa. Exactly. Bachelor of IT Leadership, right? So the idea is that the IT side, the math, the programming side, and the business side, the leadership side, they get combined. Perhaps you've heard a lot about it, so I don't need to repeat. Okay. So anyway, so I deal with the math side of the BIDL program, and I teach this course, some math courses, programming courses. Yes, that's more or less it. This is probably the most non-math course that I teach. There's a whole question as to why I'm teaching this course, but nonetheless, I still get excited about it because it gives me a chance to do some interesting things that I don't otherwise get to do. Okay, so with that little preamble, let me just tell you the formal layout. I don't know if you're familiar with the courses that are in, excuse me, that are in the bachelor program. This is sort of the layout where it all leads to visualization. Note, since I'm talking about a visualization course, I must keep in mind that my visuals must be visually appealing. So I have tried, but please do let me know if something isn't clear. So as you see, the flow of arrows very naturally points towards the right side to this course that I'm talking about. These things are all the courses that come before, well, some of the courses that come before visualization, and they all play a role. Even though this stuff is some of the more technical, that's more familiar to me, a lot of the psychology and art and sort of just non-technical stuff also comes into play, because a lot of what visualization is about, not only presenting the data, so combining the numbers into other numbers, but also to communicating something difficult, right? Because that's what you should be able to do. There's a lot of data out there. There's a lot of complicated things going on. We live in a complicated world, right? Everyone knows that. Anyways, and you should be able to somehow present all this complicated stuff visually. So this is what we do in this course. Currently, the way it works is I teach the labs. We have labs once a week. There's lectures once a week to other instructors. And with the labs, that's more interesting to me because we get to actually make the visuals. We still talk about them, but we get our hands dirty. Now, before I get into it, I really try to hammer this home with my students. And this year is the second time that I'm teaching it. And I've definitely started saying this much more. Right, so it's, we have this idea given to us by society that data is, it's just the numbers, the numbers, just look at the numbers or whatever. That's not the whole picture, because the numbers are created by someone, right? You can't just throw some numbers at people and expect them to understand what's going on. This is what you do in this course is you learn to figure out how to get the idea from the numbers and how to present it to people who may not be familiar with the data, who may not be as familiar with the data as you are. So the idea is that people gather the numbers. There are humans involved in choosing the observations to make. So here I'm sort of, we have this two sides, the visualization, and then not the two sides, but the data visualization, just talking about the data. And that plays a role simply because that's more of my experience. So when the data is gathered, this is before a visualization is made, trying to be really philosophical here, is we have very non-technical beings, humans, gathering the data, deciding what happens, choosing particular paths that aren't really natural, right? Because humans are the most natural thing. But the point is that humans each have individual experiences. We have biases, we come from different backgrounds. We have implicit assumptions about order and color. And here in this case, I'm talking about order on a page and color on some sort of thing that you see. You know, red pops out more, or green is something that we see that we have the strongest, I don't know what the word is, but the point is that our eyes see green much better than other colors. That's just how it is, and we have to take that into account. So choosing color and the order, you know, going from left to right in our society, some societies go right to left or up to down, down to up. That's part of what these people creating, collecting, visualizing, think of, and we have to make sure we are aware of those so we convey the correct message, right? Because you are the people creating what's being seen. You have no control over what people interpret, but you can have some idea, right? You can know what people are most likely to think and then play to those strengths or weaknesses depending on what you want to say. So yeah, so the big takeaway is that you are human and you are communicating with humans. You're one side of this two-sided floppy coin, right? Nothing is really set in stone. It all depends on how you write it, how you show it. Now I'm a big fan of things being deliberate, clear, and that last one is something that I recently realized is a big thing, and that I try to get my students to be conscious of. Everything that you do should be auditable, not in the sense of an audit company going through and checking all your tax reports, but being sort of transparent about what you're doing. There's this idea that the data scientist, the data analyst is like a genius, is like a wizard, and they do crazy things and they make crazy pictures, but that takes away from the message because it leaves the message as just being like, wow, it must be true, you know, people must be dying at an alarming rate in sub-Saharan Africa. Definitely true, but the question is, how did you get there? Where is this data coming from? How did you combine it? And so it's important to be transparent about all these things. A very strong point of this course. So here is an overview of how visualization works. You know, if you come to RBS and you take this class and you go to these labs, then usually the way that we do things is you start with some sort of data set, or maybe you start at this point, you already start with the visual, but usually you have some numbers, some rows and columns, and maybe it's structured differently, and you want to do something with it. This exploration step is very important, and although I've visually chosen to make a line here, definitely the usual path is to go around back and forth, because once you get to a step, you know, perhaps, and this is I think this here is a visual, excuse me, a visual from last year, and then some students this year critiqued it and improved upon it. I mean, improvement is a relative term, but the point is that you know, maybe you get here and you realize, hey, there's too much. Let me go back and let me simplify a little bit. Let me maybe add some more, and then you just go around through all these steps. Here, I guess the first thing that I see what's done is they've removed these little logos. This looks like something about video games. You know, that was a choice on the people who were improving this, and the message may be not so much to focus on which game is being talked about, but rather on the order. Here you see the bars are not really aligned in any particular order. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, they're aligned by year, but that's not particularly clear unless you look really close. So what the people improving it said was, well, it's more important which one has the most sales, and so they simply sorted it that way. So this is a small method of improvement, of changing, because they thought, well, that's the more important message, so they changed it. So this is what we do. We change things, we adjust things, we talk about it. I get my students to work in groups, to present to each other, to critique each other, because that's how we improve, listening to other viewpoints. Here is a picture of the city of Riga. While I check my phone, how much time? Let me know when I should stop. Okay. So what tools do we use? I haven't really talked about the coding tools, but most of the stuff has some sort of coding, and here I use the word coding loosely because we also use Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, which have some very powerful functions. But we also use a lot of Python. to simply do this first step that you saw of gathering, selecting, and choosing the data. Maybe some cleaning, which is a very dangerous word because cleaning implies removing something potentially important. Again, going to the whole of what's the message, what's the idea. If you've used Python before, people, show of hands, who knows what Python is, who have used Python? Okay, good, a little bit, right? It's a very nice, very easy programming language. There's lots of interfaces that students use. Just go online, go on a portal, and you're set. Some fairly understandable code, which is why I like it. Some plotting packages. This is to deal with tables, sort of like Microsoft Excel, but for Python. And then here to speak to the internet. Although I don't mean in any sort of broad metaphysical sense, I simply mean getting pages, because sometimes the data that you want is in a list on some page, and it's difficult to, well, it's very tedious to simply, click, drag, copy, paste. So you ask Python to make a nice table for you. You learn how to do that. Power BI, and that, although it's part of this coding set of tools, it's definitely also an interactive tool. Very, very popular these days. I'm not super familiar with it. We had some guest lectures from KPMG talking about how they use Power BI. It's more of when, it's like a visualization for the exploration stage where you have a ton of data and you want to have some quick, temporary, easy to understand visualizations, and then you use Power BI, and this really does all the visualization work for you, but it needs some setup when you tell it how the data talks to each other. Interactive tools, Canva, that's a big one, probably the best one, where you just, put things in a layout, make some posters. That's a big thing. We don't have exams in this class, mostly because I don't like exams. So if I'm in charge of a course, why should we have exams, right? Here we do projects. I mean, there's group work, daily group work, some quizzes, and also projects. This semester we had 2 projects, and students, geez, I'm going to press one of these lights soon. And students used Canva and other tools to make their visualizations. It's a nice, easy to use interface. And this is the last slide that I want to show you, some of these projects that students have made. As you can see, well, usually what I tell my students when we look at a visual is, what's the first thing that you see? What's the first thing that you see? You saw the map of Latvia. Good. See, someone's experience informs them of the first thing to look at. Reasonable, reasonable. Perhaps also because it's white on a dark background. Okay. Second thing was the chess piece. The small one here. Look at that. I would. That's not what I was thinking of. Okay. Perhaps personal experience. Perhaps looking for something small, something unique. So what else do I want to say? Well, I guess I want to emphasize the use of color, sort of a simple, basic thing, but definitely speaks to the message, right? Here, this is about crime. If you look at the title, behind the crime scene, implying something dark, something bad, Okay, so setting the tone. Here you have some lighter backgrounds. Chess, okay, pretty neutral, not controversial at all. A user experience graphic, visualization, poster project. I like this one because they used a unique visualization to display, I think this was how people use a particular website, where they click, how long they stay on. I think this is what was this called? This is a Sankey diagram, right? So it shows how flow goes, how people experience something, and they made a visualization about it. And then here on the right side, you have dark red, of course, the color of the Latvian flag. This is about the SIMA. This was a longer project that was spun off from what we did in the labs, using a lot of web scraping, because I really wanted to show the students, how to go from 0 to 100 inside the whole data pipeline. So we talked about how to get data from websites, how to scrape websites. At the end, it turned out it was already done, but it was still a nice exercise for students. And yeah, I like this one as well, because this is some sort of fancy colors. This is a student who, if I understand correctly, student who works in a drone firework company, and his employers were actually interested in this as well. And this is about the differences between drones and classic or sort of traditional fireworks. Good. I think that's about all that I want to tell you. Melis is coming my way, which is probably a sign that I should stop. So yeah, thanks for listening. I suppose this is the point where people ask questions.
Yes. Does anybody have any questions?
Exciting.
I have a question.
Oh,
What's your favorite part about teaching students this? What's your favorite thing to look out for when you're doing this?
yeah. I mean, in general, my favorite part is that people don't tell me what to do, which is exciting because then we can do interesting things in class. But what to look out for, what I always keep in mind is, I guess, the language here. I think it was, I'm not sure if it was this one. The students who made these projects just presented them this past week, and one of the groups was talking about, actually, yeah, I do think it was this one. Okay, I don't think. Okay, good. They're not here. They're not gonna get on me for pointing this out, but it's not a bad thing, you know. It's a very normal thing for people to do. So they had a data set. I think this is this is part of the original data set that they use, and it was about how often crimes are reported in particular countries, right? So some statistics, someone's gathered it, and how often crimes are reported. So this is a reporting statistic. How many times someone has said, yes, there was a crime. However, they use the word, I wish I can zoom in. Can I zoom in here? No, I can't zoom in here. Expecting too much of technology these days. What they used here was this word for crime statistics. They use the phrase crime rate, high crime, low crime later, which are similar phrases. But the thing that I look out for is being technically precise, because while crime statistic, crime reporting number is one thing, you know, how many times someone says, yes, this crime was committed, the crime rate, how many crimes actually happen, is totally different. In fact, yeah, you definitely can see this. Well, okay, so you can see Latvia is emphasized. That's very good. I like that emphasis. I definitely taught that to my students. Latvia is emphasized down here, low crime rate. High crime rate, I think it was Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. The most, you know, Nordic, peaceful, loving countries or whatever. Not the conclusion, but my feeling immediately was that, well, these countries simply have more money allocated to police or perhaps to crime reporting organizations, whereas not so much here. You know, certainly we have police and everything happens, but there is not, or there is certainly a lack of understanding the different sorts of crimes, even having the language, you know, God love Latvian, but it is a very poor language in terms of words. The world is expanding, and we use English. We use English to describe things that are technically very difficult. But since some of these basic things don't exist, how to describe particular crimes, it's simply missing there. So this is what I look out for is, although the data is there and we can use phrases and we can talk fast and loose, we have to be sure what we're talking about is actually correct or can be justified in any sort of reasonable way.
Does anybody else have questions?
All right,
No?
go home.
Okay.
Get out of here.
Thank you, Yanis. Thank you, everyone. I think that's it. Does anybody else have questions about not related to what Yanis said, maybe to me, about studies here, anything? No. Okay. Well, thank you then.
Thank you.
Mhm.